Welcome to Mrs. Lowe's flipping of the cosmological argument. The cosmological argument aims to answer the question of why is there something rather than nothing, and it looks to God as the answer to that question. The argument is an a posteriori argument, which means is based on evidence found in the world. It's also a deductive argument, which means if the premises of the argument are true, then the conclusion must be true. One of the main proponents of the argument was St. Thomas Aquinas, who used the first three of his 5 ways as his cosmological argument, those of cause, motion, and necessity. His argument from motion states that nothing that moves, moves by itself. For example, wood burning in a fire does not spontaneously burst into flames. It must be lit by another. As Plato put it, all things are secondary movers. There must be a source of all this motion, and Aquinas argues that that cause is God. Aquinas' argument from causation states that everything we can think of in the universe is caused by something else, and nothing can be the cause of itself. There must be a source of all causes, and that we call God. His argument from contingency and necessity states that all contingent beings have both a start and an end of their existence, so they rely on something else for their continued existence. Everything that we know of in the universe is contingent, so there must be a non-contingent or necessary being upon which everything depends. This being we call God. René Descartes accepted many of the principles of Aquinas' argument, but he said that he wanted to find the cause and sustainer of his own existence after his little existential crisis, where he concluded, "I think, therefore I am." He argued that he is unaware of having the power to sustain his own existence, thus he cannot have that power. The cause of his existence must therefore be external to himself, which must lead to an eventual ultimate cause, which we call God. The Kalam argument is a further development of these principles. It was first created by Al-Ghazali, but was developed by William Lane Craig. The argument alters the principles of the cosmological argument by clarifying that anything that has a beginning of existence must have a cause. The cause of the universe must be a supernatural cause of immense power, and Craig argues that this must be a personal cause, called God. Craig also successfully refuted infinite regress, as he argues that actual infinites are impossible. We cannot add or subtract from an infinite, so in terms of the universe, if it were infinite, then nothing would ever begin or end. Remember, if there's an infinite library of blue and green books and an infinite library of green books, they are both the same. If you take a book away, they remain the same. The first critic we're going to talk about in this argument is Hume. Hume argues that the explanation for the universe doesn't require us to move beyond the universe itself. We should either accept the universe as the explanation or find a sufficient explanation within the universe. Also, if we accept, as Aquinas wants us to, that there is something that doesn't need a cause, then why must it be God and not the universe itself? Hume disagrees with Aquinas' use of the word necessary. This implies a contradiction of terms in the fact that it suggests that a necessary being has to exist. Well, Hume says that there is nothing wrong with saying, if God exists, then he exists necessarily, suggesting that Aquinas has fallen foul of the definition of necessity. He also argues that just because each thing in the universe has a cause does not mean the universe itself has a cause. We can't assume qualities of the individuals apply to the group, and this is called the fallacy of composition. Finally, Russell agrees with Hume and disagrees with the concept of a necessary being, as he argues that only propositions can be self-contradictory. He also says that Aquinas is guilty of the fallacy of composition, the same as Hume, because just because every human has a mother does not mean the species as a whole must have a mother. Russell then states that we don't actually need an explanation for the universe at all, it is just a brute fact. In writing your essay, the best way to pair these philosophers is Aquinas and Descartes would be critiqued by Hume, as his most applies to their concept of necessity and the fallacy of composition, and Russell applies most closely to William Lane Craig. Good luck!
Created using Powtoon.